Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast, the Dr. Lino Show. Today, I would like to welcome Bridgit Norris. Bridgit is a game-changing leadership coach who uses a conscious and ethical approach to help her clients achieve success in both their businesses and personal lives. She is known for her straight-talking, no-nonsense approach and her weekly community, the REVOLT WEEKLY, which serves as a support group for rule-breaking individuals looking for inspiration, guidance, and real talk. Bridgit is a leader of a revolution, and her community is filled with like-minded individuals ready to break free and create something extraordinary. Welcome to the A Little Less Fear podcast, Bridgit.
Thank you. I'm so excited. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So, hey, tell us about your journey. What brought you to where you are currently?
Oh my goodness. You know, like when you're just explaining your journey, some of the things that I never actually openly talk about unless somehow it comes up on a podcast is the idea of it really starts when we're so young, and your little less fear kind of plays into my entire life. I'm a huge proponent of everything that happens in your life. That's good, that's bad. It's for a reason, and it gets you to where you're supposed to be if you use it in the way that it benefits you. We sometimes, obviously we go backwards, but so the long and the short version of how I got to where I am is, I started out in corporate like every other, human doing everything we're told to do, moving up the ladder, and had the chance to kind of step back. And I have a now 24-year-old, but he was 5 at the time, and kind of play the soccer mom role, which is something I never knew I was going to have the chance prior to that as a single mom to do. And I did it. And then all of a sudden, and of course, I always say this, all of a sudden I woke up and he was 15 and he didn't need his mommy anymore. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had no clue. Like, corporate was over for me. I didn't have anything. So I got online and I started off like a million other people, like, oh, okay, here's network marketing. What is this? I tried, 7 of those, and I'm horrible at that because I like to help people based on what I think is best for them, not based on something that I'm supposed to be telling them. So that never worked for me. I opened up a gym, an actual physical brick and mortar gym for women, teaching strength and confidence. And I loved it. It just took up so much of my time. I didn't realize how much that took, how much it took out of you. And at one point in time, one of my clients said to me, it kind of feels like you're a life coach. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I need to Google that immediately. I went home and I'm like, oh my God, this is real. Like, people are doing this for real and virtually. And I'm like, this is a thing. And so yeah. I'm like, so started the journey of, getting online and, jumping into it, being myself, doing what I needed to do. And I think I came right out of the chute, as I am. This is who I am. This is what I say, take it or leave it. And I allowed the space over, 5 or 6 years to kind of eat me up. Like, I molded into what I was supposed to do, how I was supposed to speak and say. And I just woke up, a couple of years ago, and I was like, this has to stop. And I had to stop everything.
What was that feeling, Bridgit? This has to stop. Was it because you felt inauthentic or you felt burnt out? What was this has to stop feeling?
It was all of that. Like, I knew I was just tired of all of it. I was tired of the social media. I was tired of pretending. I was tired of trying to speak in a way that wasn't authentic to me. I was tired of doing things in a way that somebody told me I had to do them because this is the structure of building a business online. And I just was like, if this is what this is, I'm not interested in this. I'll go back to corporate. I know exactly what that feels like and how I can be in control of that. And so I stopped. I shut off social media. I ended my final coaching program, and I stopped coaching for almost 2 years, and basically just committed to getting back to me. Like, I needed to figure out what happened. How did I, go from the rebellious little girl who never let anybody steer me in a direction other than myself to where I was at.
Mhm.
And what I realized is after I went through all of that and kind of looked back at all the things that I lost through that, I realized how many other people are going through that in the online space. So that's what led me to kind of the revolt was like, it's my own personal revolt against everything that turned into, how do I help everyone else revolt against this?
And how did that start to come together?
That was a janky, weird process. Yes. You think about all the things that you learn and that you take in, and you know, you got all the programs you buy and the books you read and the things that you do, and you're like, I've consumed all of this. Like, what do I do now? And I just had to step back and say, what was the number one thing that I was missing? And I kept asking myself, like, I'm not good at anything. What am I good at? What am I going to be able to give somebody? I have nothing to give. And that was the biggest thing that struck me as, this is a chord that hurts. Like, I have nothing to give. It's impossible. Like, I had to get back to what are my strengths and how does that transfer to serving someone else? And that's where I started. And it started off really honing back into those things. And the things, and I realized those were things that people were telling me were negative. Like, I'm too masculine. I'm too type A, you know, you're working with women. Women don't want that. You need to be more feminine. You need to be nicer. You need to speak nicer. I'm like, I don't know how to do those things. Mm-hmm. I tried really hard, but it's not who I am. And I realized that by doing that, it wasn't serving anybody that came to work with me. It wasn't serving me. And I actually created better results for people when I was actually me, when I actually served them in the way that is true to me.
Bridgit, thank you for that. Earlier, you were saying right now, before what you created, something being true to yourself. Before you created something true to yourself, you were in this self-limiting thoughts that you weren't good enough. And then you questioned afterwards, what are my strengths? How did you jump from limiting beliefs to a question that opened up a path to you?
A lot of, that's nobody's ever asked me that question ever. So it's really good question, but it was a lot of, I think it's why it took as long as it did. It's not like something that you can just, here's a 3-step process to figuring out how to go from here to there. But for me, it was really stepping back and going, I had a very tough life growing up. I moved out when I was 12. Like, I have been living, all over on my own since I was 12 years old. And I thought, what would that 12-year-old girl do at that point? The one that nobody could, take anything away from her. She was strong. She was confident. She knew exactly what she could give to the world, and she didn't let anybody take anything from that. And I kind of started going back to that and asking, I never thought about those things when I was 12. I never thought I wasn't good enough. I grew up in a trailer park on food stamps, and nobody could tell me I wasn't good enough. I was, in the popular crowd in school because I decided that didn't matter. And so I just kept looking at that going, I don't understand how I got to this place. I don't understand how I allowed in online, not even real people, not to say it's not real, but like real life, people doing that to me. And I had to take this, I literally took it back to when I was 12. And it's not a really great concept or an answer, but I bring that to people when they constantly say that to me, like, who were you when you were 12? And let's go back and figure that out, because there's pieces in there. There's pieces of you that you probably lost along the way that are the most important parts of who you are.
I think that's a fantastic answer, because this is what's true to you. And this is what's true to almost everybody, because when we are in our innate childness, that's when we're being true at the time. We don't have limitations. We're not afraid to be creative. We're not afraid to explore and to be imaginative and adventurous. And we start to lose all of these things when we go out in public and we become adults, and we start to gain other people's limited beliefs, and we adopt those beliefs, and we think those are our beliefs, and we start living a life that's not even true for us. So then you created something true for yourself after you went past these limiting beliefs. You went back to 12-year-old self, Bridgit. And how did you start to regain that 12-year-old Bridgit mentality again?
It was starting to remind myself of, the confidence that I had, the rebellious. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like I kept telling myself, you were the most rebellious child. I can remember my entire since I was little, and I can remember people telling me like, you are, nobody can tell you what to do. There is nothing that anybody can say. I mean, even my mom, like when I told her I'm moving out, I'm 12, and she's, there was no. There was no telling me no, because that's just how I was. And I'm like, who is that? Like, how do I get that rebellious spirit back?
Yeah.
At 44 years old, I can still be rebellious. It's not in the same fashion, but I want that back. So I started with that piece because it was so true to who I was that I knew that the confidence portion and that stuff would come in time, but I needed that part back because that's the biggest piece that I lost.
Yeah, that's kind of like that power that you had lost. You needed to gain that 12-year-old Bridget, rebellious, I'm confident, I'm going to make it on my own. I know I'm going to make it on my own attitude.
Yes, 100%.
So then you created something true for yourself. Tell us about what's true for yourself. Tell us about this creation.
It's just a owning like the strength of how it takes you to get to be from, wherever you are when you started to where you are. There's a huge portion of that I think we don't own. We don't own how good we are at certain things. Like, so great. I was in corporate for 10 years before I shifted out. I was really good at a lot of things in there. And you think like, none of that's useful. None of that's useful in my coaching. It doesn't transfer over. And I'm like, you get to that process where you start to feel like, I'm supposed to have some, amazing life-changing story that's this so epic that's going to help me make, the massive $10,000 months that everybody wants to make.
Right.
And when you feel like you don't have that, you feel like, I'm not good enough for that. And I just had to realize that I have so much to offer in the things that I have done and gone through and know. Not everybody knows those things. It's just like it's the most easiest reminder that unfortunately it gets lost in translation.
And it totally gets lost in translation too when you're in corporate America, because you're checking yourself in a box that's specific to how they want you to be. And that doesn't allow your own personal creativity to come out and flow naturally. And so I can see how that could be really frustrating and also engaging and just upsetting. And there's no growth when you're boxed in.
Well, the funny part about, my corporate story is that I started in construction. So not only did I want to be, I didn't want to start in a bank or in an insurance company like every other, woman at my age when I started. I'm like, I want to start in construction. So I started on a construction site in a trailer with, a bunch of men saying a whole lot of things that they shouldn't be saying in front of women, especially when I was 20. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And when you push back and say, I can't do it, I push harder. And that's kind of the environment that I pushed myself through. And I got lucky on a lot of levels with having mentors that allowed me to, what do you want to be? Where do you want to go here? And what do you want to do? Make it happen, because that was the personality. So I got lucky on that end. But I would say that the stuffiness of corporate, it was definitely there for other people. I think it's who you are and how you can make it work for you. I think you can go anywhere you want to go, but you got to be willing to do it. It's a little scary sometimes, especially when you're a chick in a room full of dudes that have
oh my gosh,
that don't say much about that. Oh God, it was interesting.
Talk about having to gain some thick skin.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's the learning how to talk to people and understanding that. And part of it was really, once I got to a level of, and I think this can apply to anything, once you get to a level of owning and knowing that you know what you're talking about, there is no allowing somebody to step over you and, speak over you and not exude your confidence in that, because I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. Exactly.
And so I remind people of that. If you need to be reminded because you think that because I'm a woman, I don't know the answer, I probably know more than you. And I've said that to a lot of people. But I think that position really kind of, I didn't realize it then, but like it was totally who I was. It was totally who I was when I was a kid. Like that is exactly why I was in that. Like,
yeah.
So I never really had a lot of female friends. And so like, this was like normal for me. I'm like, this is great.
It's interesting, Bridget, you went from like working with a bunch of men to now working with pure women.
I know.
Tell us about
It's
this transition. I mean, what is it like now just working with just women and finding your voice in this new feminine divine energy that you're in?
so it's been a little bit of a shift. In the first instance, I started out speaking to women exactly the way I would speak to any other person I would speak to, corporate men, it didn't really matter. And it worked in the beginning. And then, excuse me, I had people tell me that doesn't work, right? You need to be, everybody wants to be in the divine and the feminine and all this. And so I tried that. And oddly enough, I really didn't get a lot of clients during that time. Like, I think you can just tell I don't exude that. And when you try to revert to those things, I'm not even gonna lie, I took self-love certification. I took like all of these things that I think definitely helped me. So I don't regret them, but they weren't something I could teach. I mean, the first time a girl, I got on the phone and she started crying, I had no idea what to do. Like, I don't know what to do here. I'm like, I feel really bad. I'm like, I'm not an emotional person. I grew up, we don't cry, that type of thing. So I'm like, oh crap. Like, am I going to be able to do this? I didn't know what the hell to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I just kind of sat there and I thought, okay, well, and I have a boy, so I didn't even raise a girl. So I'm like totally wrong.
Yeah.
And so that was the hard part. And it kind of evolved back into realizing that I can be both. I can have that empathy for people and still have my strong, this is what we're doing personality, because far too often people spend too much time in the woe is me empathy section of where we're at, and they don't get out of it. And that's the push that they need. And I think somebody reminded me at some point that, it's you're just on the edge of being too much of what I would normally hire, but that's where I'm at in my life right now. It's what I need. Like, I can't have any more people like surrounding me telling me it's okay, you don't have to do anything. And that's not who I am. Like, we can't stay in that spot. So I just kind of evolved into that. And oddly enough, over the last 4 months, I've been working with men who are attorneys, who I actually laughed on a call with one of them. And I said, I kind of feel like I should have been working with men all along. You guys are so much easier. Like, this is like 10 times easier. Like, we talk, I tell you what to do, you do it, you come back, and then we go over it. There isn't any, of the stuff in between. So that's kind of the evolution. It's kind of the evolution, because some people don't want to hear the hard things. And, men are like, whatever, like, I could be mad at you, but I'm going to still do what I need to do. And I'm going to come back and we're going to have the conversation. So but that's kind of the evolution.
You have found your voice within your evolution of working with women. So what about working with women are you passionate about?
The biggest part of working with women is because I want to see more women get back to that, rebellious little, like, being able to speak out with freedom, being able to be who you are, being able to own the strengths that you have that don't look like anyone else. There's too much same copycat, carbon copies of everything. And the more we can get people back to kind of understanding that the little nuances that you think are nothing that we might talk about in a call are the things that I pull out and get you to understand that this is like the most important piece about you. How do we weave this back into you, weave this back into your work? So that's been the biggest part. I like to see that, evolution of, them exuding the confidence to be like, I just get to be who I am and that's enough. Yes. Like, that's it. That's not that it's enough. That's it. That's the only option.
I love this. So basically what I'm feeling here from what you're saying is that you're allowing women to step into that energy that's going to give them their own personal voice so that they can hear themselves, feel themselves, and project that on into the world and exude confidence from there on forward.
Yes. And I think it's also the idea of bringing in when we talk about like the feminine, masculine energy, bringing in the masculine energy and saying like, whatever it is that you are, that energy is still needed. You still have to execute on what we're saying. Like, we can't just have fluffy conversations and that be enough. That's not enough. Like, that's kind of, to me, some of the things that the online space has brought up. Like, it's a lot of fluff and a lot of talk and no action.
Exactly. And that's so true, because the ebb and flow in life is both energies, masculine and feminine energies all around, not just with humans, but with animals and just the interactions and connections. You need that ebb and flow in order for you to really step into your full power. That's really beautiful that you're doing
100%.
this. So I noticed that it says here, strategist for conscious disruptors. What's a conscious disruptor?
So this is the conscious part really for me is been a lot of the evolution of going through the online space, and the ability for people to not understand how to be a conscious person, being conscious of other people, their feelings, their needs, their desires, their wants, only, creating offers that only somebody that makes, $1 million can afford. There's the people that, there's too much space between the top and the bottom, that there's no service of that. So I think that people being more conscious of being able to be open to provide things to more people is part of the conscious part. I have a hard time with people making millions of dollars off the backs of someone else when they get no results from it. So that's kind of a lot of pushback from the unethical part of that is the conscious part of that. But the disruptor part is, I want people to, whatever it is that you do, I want you to disrupt that industry. I want you to speak on everything that you feel about it, and the things that you want to push back against, the things that you don't believe, the things that you need to be shifted. The disrupting part of it is just the norms. They need to go. Like, there is no norms. We create our own. So
Exactly.
I think the more we can disrupt what's out there, the better every industry is.
How does somebody disrupt something in a constructive, peaceful manner without being too bombarding?
I think that speaking your truth is not bombarding at all. I think that if somebody speaks out against, something, whatever it is, they have a very strong opinion about something that's going on. I value that strong opinion, as long as the way that they're speaking doesn't hurt someone else in any fashion. I value the conversation. So when I put out a piece of content that maybe a little bit, people are going to like it, some people aren't, some people are going to have some major things to say. I do that with the fact of, I want the conversation. I want everybody to have a voice, and everybody, there is no right or wrong. There is no, because this is my point of view, that your point of view is wrong.
Right.
The more that we have those conversations, the better. And I think that that's also something that's lacking, in the conscious part of the online space. It's this is what I say, and so this is the facts. And I'm like, it's not the facts. It's not, like, this is my beliefs. Right. It's not the facts.
I know.
So I like the part of just showing up in that fashion. And I think sometimes it's hard, and I've had many women be very fearful of saying something that, when they say it to me, and I'm like, that's really not that disruptive. That's just your point of view, but they're so scared to say it. And I'm like, But what if somebody says something back? And I'm like, that's great. It starts a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that's a big piece of it. And I think it's when people think disruptor, even some of my last group of women, they were like, I don't really want to be a disruptor. I'm like, you're thinking of it wrong.
Yeah.
You're thinking of it wrong. I'm not asking you to, like, show up and blow everything up. Like, That's not what I'm saying. So a little bit of that is reining them back in, with understanding what that means and what that can mean to them.
That's awesome. And so you use a conscious and ethical approach to help your clients succeed, to achieve success in business and personal lives. Could you give us an example on conscious and ethical approach for them to kind of like rise up in their current situation?
So for me, for me and my business, it's on a certain amount of levels of, as far as conscious and ethical, being costs, being access, being, I am not a person who, I have clients from 6 years ago that still reach out to me on Facebook when they have a question or I don't deny people of that. I'm a person that if you're going to work with people and you're going to try to help them change their lives, if you're building a relationship that's forever, and saying because you don't pay me means I'm not going to answer you. I'm totally against that. I don't believe people taking advantage, obviously, but there is a level missing of the relationship aspect when you are working in that deep level with people. I think that it's different if you're just giving them here's a blueprint to create a Facebook ad. That's, totally different than working on a level of saying we're transforming lives and businesses. I think there needs to be a stronger connection with people and relationships with people.
Yeah, humanitarian. I love that.
Yeah, I'm probably never going to be a gazillionaire because of that, but I mean, that's who I am.
Never know.
I think that I've said that to a bunch of the last women that were in my group, that it's okay. Like, they're even terrified to say, I don't want to make $1 million, because that's not acceptable in the online space. I'm like, you can just do whatever you want to do. Like, do you want to do this for free? Do it for free. I mean, like, this makes you happy. Like, there's so much negativity towards not, conforming, that's my biggest pushback. So understanding what it is, who you are and your strengths is one thing, but then like deciding this is what I want and owning that, and it being okay not to look like what everybody else has, and then going after it is the action part of it.
Definitely. I love that. So you have a weekly community support group called the REVOLT Weekly. Tell us about the support group. I love that name, by the way, the REVOLT Weekly. That's awesome.
That's just, that's a space for kind of, I took it off of, being in a Facebook group, being on a network, and being on a social media platform, and into the email aspect. And that may change later, depending on, all the new things that come out, but getting people away from the platforms initially were a big deal to me. And in an email where you can just open it up, you can read the words that I have to say, and they're, strong words that I don't want to be, scripted and put off Facebook and having to say things in a certain way in social media so that it's okay to post things. Like, I say the things that I would say if my best friend was sitting next to me, in the same fashion. And I want that to be a place where, if there's a response, they can respond in any way, shape, or form. And there isn't there's going to be nothing that comes back. There's no blowback from whatever you have to say to me is fine. And I that doesn't happen on social media. And I think, that's part of the reason that I took it into the email. I mean, and again, I like the community aspect, and I think we'll be bringing some more into that with just, coming live on a call and, having everybody speak in that fashion. I think will be fun now that we're moving, back into trying to like see people in person and do those things. I think that's coming, but initially that was the entire aspect of it. I just wanted people away from the drama, the drama on the platforms.
Do people share in the support group?
A lot of the responses I get from people that have just been in my world for a long time are usually like the same things. Like, I'm so glad you said that. Like, I wish I could say that out loud. And then usually I have to like respond to them like, how can you say exactly what I said in a way that feels true to you out loud, that you're comfortable with? Like, how do we start with that? Yes. How do we start baby? And I even tell them, like, let's start baby steps. Like, what's the easiest way the most comfortable thing that you can do? And if you don't like, going live, or you don't like being live, or you don't like speaking, how can you write? Like, can you get on a place where you can write your own articles? Can you, helping them find that aspect so that they can think the more you keep your words and your expressions and the things that you need to say inside and you can't bring them out, I think the worse that it gets, and the worse the cycle that you're on never seems to end. So if you don't like this, my last client, I don't like really speaking and being on podcasts. Great. You like writing? Go on Medium, create a place that you can go on Medium and create articles for people. Like, choose that. And then it's the exact opposite. I have someone who loves to talk, and all she wants to do is talk. And I'm like, great, create a Netflix podcast episode. I'm like, let's create a Netflix series where you drop it like Netflix. We'll just give them all these ideas to like, and you can just see their eyes open, like glow, like, oh my God, I can actually do that. I'm like, you can do anything you want. Yeah. We just have to decide what that is and what feels good to you. Because if it doesn't, and you try to do something that somebody else dictates, if I try to tell you to write, but you love podcasting, you're going to be like, ugh, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Forget it. Or I'll pretend I do it for once or twice, and then you don't follow through. I'm like, that completely, kills your it kills the whole point of, you growing, but it also kills you on the inside. I think it kills the desire to keep moving forward.
And usually when somebody doesn't move forward, and that's usually because that's not their true voice, and they're just kind of still going with what they think they should be doing or what they've been told. So they're trying it out, but they're not really feeling it's not really true to them.
100%. Like, I need to post every single day and my content needs, and you're like, I don't have that much content because the stuff I create, it comes up when I'm emotionally feeling it. And I'm like, So then why are you creating every day? Somebody told me that's what I needed to do. And I'm like, that's not what you need to do. Like, what you need to do is what feels good to you, and because that one thing that comes out of you could be the most powerful thing that everybody needed to hear all week. And nobody cares about all the other stuff that you pretended that you needed to type the rest of the week. Like, you're missing the idea of it.
And then when you start going down that rabbit hole, it really starts to take your energy out. It sucks you out. You start to get tired, and it could be a domino effect of negativity in the end, which is why it's important to do what you're doing, which is really incredible. You're inspiring these women to find their inner voice in order for them to uplift their own inner joy, self-motivate, proclaim who they are and their voice, and just keep going from there and keep climbing. And that's really beautiful, Bridgit. I love it.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's like if you can do the exact opposite. I did it, and I can tell you exactly what happens. I told you, like, it's horrible. And you end up in this hole of, like, the who am I? I'm horrible. I suck at all the things, and I don't know what I want to do with my life. And it's like, when you snap out of that, you're like, how did I even get there? How's that even possible? Like I should have never been there in the first place. So I think skipping all of that drama is 10 times easier.
Definitely. So what are your goals with your business right now, with where you currently are?
I'm long-term goals. I'm currently in the process of, I think we talked about this, getting certified with flow certification. So flow state, so high achievers. And I always talk about, like, being a super athlete in your business. Like, how can you be in flow all the time? And the things that negate flow, the things that I think understanding flow in general. So that's kind of my main focus through the end of this year. And hopefully after that, we'll see how that turns into how I can help the larger community. And I think that's going to open up to both men and women. And then I do have the REVOLT, which is the REVOLT program, which is a 10-week program that is solely right now for women. So I'll keep running that because the results are great. And the group of women, I keep them in there forever. So we have, after the 10 weeks, we have monthly calls that I get to keep up with them, make sure that they are still moving forward, that they don't need anything. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think I'm in the process of talking about writing a book. Awesome. But I don't know if I'm going to get to that. I keep saying I'm going to get to that this year, and I keep putting it off. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
I'm sure you'll get into that once you get into a specific flow state and just continue with the pool of that energy. And then once you get in that energy, you'll be nonstop. I'm certain you'll create that book. I'm sure you will.
Yes, it's been on the list forever. So I can't continue to, not do the things that I say I'm going to do, because that's not what I'm telling everyone else. So I have that in my head. Like, it's on my calendar. I'm focusing on it, but you're right. I have to commit to that.
Bridgit, tell us a success story from one of your clients.
Oh, good Lord. Let me think. Well, I have one that actually has been with me since, quite literally, she was in the first program I ever launched, ever. I have no idea what I was doing. And she's kind of stuck with me and flowed in and out of a lot of things that I've had, but she's an amazing photographer, and she has always wanted to coach, and she has a lot of different things that happened in her life. And so after the last time we worked together, she actually reopened her photography business where she moved. She lost 60 pounds, and then I know, it's amazing. And then she opened up her coaching business, and it's sex coaching, which is like such a hard thing for her to have been able to say and do. She's been talking about it forever, and it's how it fits in her life was odd, and she wasn't sure how to speak about it. And, she does boudoir photos and stuff. So for me, it's been an amazing evolution. So that's it. knowing somebody as long as I have and knowing her story and the evolution that she's gone through in the past 6 years, to me, that's, I love that aspect. And I hope that everybody that is in my world stays in there as long so that I can track them forever.
I can assume that also helps you evolve as well. When you're seeing your clients evolve and what an impact your voice made on them, I can assume and I can feel that probably helps you elevate yourself as well.
Yeah, it's just the feeling of like, if I did nothing else, if I chose to stop tomorrow, like that would be enough for me. Like there's just knowing that it's just that one person. I'm not even speaking about anyone else. Like I'm good with that being enough, because I don't need it to be, I would love to like change the entire world, but I could be a little realistic here and say, I like to change everybody in my world. So yeah, but it's definitely, it kind of helps me see how I can evolve and continue to evolve.
Excellent, Bridgit. Bridgit, thanks so much for sharing your incredible energy. Bridgit Norris, everybody, the creator of the Revolt Leadership Coach and Strategist for Conscious Disruptors. Thank you so much for sharing all of your energy. Where can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you if they need a leadership coach such as yourself?
Yes. So it's pretty easy. It's Bridgit Norris, Bridgit Norris on Facebook and Instagram. I'm mostly on Facebook because my son tells me it's because I'm old and I don't do all the new things like the Instagrams and the TikToks, but you can still find me in those places. That's it.
Awesome, Bridgit. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure connecting with you. Keep going, keep flowing, and keep inspiring.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Dr. Lino Show, A Little Less Fear podcast. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can do so by sending me an email at alittlelessfear@gmail.com or through an inquiry from my website at www.alittlelessfear.com, where you will always find information on where to get my book. You can get my book on Amazon and Amazon paperback version, Kindle or Kindle Unlimited. And I also create incredible visual video poetry for people that are interested in marketing or even just to send a personal note to anybody or somebody that you might love. So yeah, check it out. I love it. Poetry is my passion, one of my other passions, aside from doing what I do right now, which is giving you all the motivation that you need to keep growing, to keep motivating people, motivating yourself, and to keep expanding. I love you all so much. Have a blessed day and take care. Rock on.